Hey, welcome to Web3 Weekly with your host, Blockstar Technology.
Let's go.
Welcome everyone to our 10th episode. The time flew, right? Who knew? Right? From first, that means like 10 weeks without missing, right? Which is fantastic. So, a call came in. But I mean, it's all right.
You're a popular man, cousin. You're a popular man.
Right. So, guys, it's like, double figures. Congratulations to everyone. So, So here, my name is Kosi. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Blockstars, and to my left I have Craig. Craig is one of our business analysts, and we have Charlie. Charlie is our operations manager, and Maureen. Maureen is our in-house legal counsel. So pretty much we have like people from like different backgrounds. So Craig, if you want to just, because today I would like to talk about, I had this afternoon, I think in our time at 11 o'clock, so about 10 to 11, I had a meeting with someone, right? And in that discussion, one of the things that it's an interview, right? In that discussion, what we came up with, like, we talk about how do we operate, Charlie? Like, what's our mantra that we have here?
People, culture, and business, money last.
Yeah, money last, right? People, culture, money. So we were just talking about that, and I thought like one of the things that came through in that thing was about ethics, right? We're doing it for the right reason. So I'm happy to start, talk today's, I would like to sort of head today's podcast towards ethics in NFTs. I love NFTs, and everyone knows about, that I love NFTs. Everyone here knows about how much I love about NFTs, and I thought it would be cool to discuss, and especially with your background, Maureen, about the legal aspect, and Crypto Charlie, and Craig, where you come from, a conservative, and how we going to discuss how we're going to bring the Web 0, 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah.
How that was in the ethics and all that. So I thought it will be good for us to talk about ethics in today's podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
All right, awesome. So hi to our Instagram live people as well. So and what this this Twitter space and podcast is all been recorded video as well. So if you want to see our faces, you can jump onto our Instagram live, or if you love our just voices but not our faces, you can be on Twitter Spaces.
That right.
You can watch it later on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be on YouTube and Spotify, and also on SoundCloud and a few other places as well. So guys, so thank you so much for joining us today. So let's talk about ethics. All right, so I'll start with NFTs, right? Oh, before that, let's go to Web 0 and Web 1, 2, 3, right? Pre-web, right? When we did, like, remember the times that we did MIRC chat, the ICQ, and when you go to MIRC, the first thing you ask is ASL, age, sex, location, right?
That seemed to be a little bit of a throwback to the old, like, ham radio CB type days where people would ask those exact same questions. And then when those communication methods came online in the form of, IRC, which is Internet Relay Chat, for anybody that's not familiar with the term.
Yes.
Me and Charlie over here.
The same sort of lingo sort of followed through and then obviously evolved itself.
Yeah. And at that time, we obviously didn't have the videos, right? We didn't have the video chat per se. It's not like being on Zoom or anything like that.
No, nobody had the bandwidth.
No one had the bandwidth that time, right? And in a space like that, how did you did ethically? When you did your coding? Like, I remember, I'm not proud to say that, but the way I was talking with this gentleman earlier today, and I was like, what is your background, Kosi, right? And how do you get into the space, right? And I was like, I start coding. I didn't go and start writing code per se. I learned how to crack code, right? And that's how, with my Amiga, with the game, I just want to skip the level, and I just learned how to skip the level using code, not by playing the game. And I think that time in the 90s, I think a lot of people got into the coding part like that. So now,
you're talking about using a hex editor or something to increase the amount of health you had or something like that.
Stuff like that, yeah, jump the skill. Now, is it ethically right or ethically wrong? And it is wrong.
Well,
ethically, it is wrong, right?
That depends.
Yeah.
Because back then, these are all like single player games.
Yes.
It's not impacting anyone but yourself. So provided you owned and purchased the software, you're actually generally only editing the saved file anyway, which your system has created.
Yes.
So if it's only impacting you, is it unethical?
I think it is unethical.
You hacked yourself from having fun playing the game.
Yeah, but if you think about it, right, it could have been something that is also, how can I, because obviously the software was not written to, the cheat codes was a big thing, right, that time, because they had cheat codes in magazines, like the Amiga magazine, when it came with the next volume, it was cheat codes.
And the cheat codes were built in by the developers
by the developers themselves.
So even they had ways for you to skip and, be better and do things. So how is what you did doing it yourself any different?
I don't know. I feel like it's wrong, and looking back at it,
I really love that you just said that, and I'm gonna admit I'm not really sure that what you guys are talking about, this computer game and coding, but you just hit the nail on the head. I think there's a lot of confusion when it comes to the definition of the meaning of words. A lot of people sort of like tiptoe on the edges. Ethics doesn't necessarily mean morals and values and stuff. So I think there's always that, not confusion, but sometimes misunderstanding or perception of whether ethics means to do something morally right or in right. And I think one of these things, this is a great topic, by the way, and I don't want to hijack you guys, so maybe I'm just going to go off what you said. I think it's great that you said this, and I'm going to add to it, because when it comes to ethics, a lot of people think that ethics kind of follows almost common sense, like you should know what's ethically right. But in every profession, they have a code of ethics. So it's not illegal, but it could be unethical. And at the end of the day, those ethics are really built on cultural standings. And I say that because all of us might feel, what we value is how we reflect what's ethical to us. But when it came to something, I'll give it an example since we're talking about it. Tesla, automatic driving vehicles. All right, when they started programming their car legally, anyone that owns a Tesla has to actually sign now for it, agree that whatever the car does or chooses to do, they're liable for. Right. And so when they were automating Teslas and programming them, they came to what's called the ethical dilemma. So essentially, what that is that to us, that car has to choose, make a choice. And that choice has to be something based on what you're comfortable in. And so they took the ethical dilemma test and they took it to all these countries around the world, and they used game theory to test it. And what they did was they had people of all ages, people from all different cultures, people from, all ends of the world, different languages, different sexes, different races, sit this series of questions. And what it is that you're in a car, that car is driving, you're going down a road, and every single time it presents you with two options. You have an option to swerve and hit a pole and kill yourself, or hit a bus and kill 20 children. Okay, and so each provides you with an option. You're driving, there's an old woman and there's a cat. Which do you kill? All of this stuff. And essentially, you're programming the machine to know if it has this option and there's a movie and someone jumps out, if they're old or if they're young, do you kill the older? Or do you kill the younger person? Do you save humans? Do you kill animals? This and that. And what it came out to show was like your ethics and what you would choose are actually different based on your cultural beliefs and values.
That's so true, actually.
So in Asia, a lot of people, when they got the option, they would hit the young people
That's right.
and save the elders because they
Yes, yes.
respect their elders. And funny enough, in Australia, people were more likely to hit people and save their dogs or cats. So like the cultural differences really were what determined a lot of their ethical choices. So just on that, so it's not necessarily a clear-cut thing. What is ethical to one person might differ to another person. That's what makes ethics so difficult. That's why we have codes of ethics that have to be followed, because they're sort of like agreed things that, you know, we've all come together and said, based on what we believe, we agree that this is ethical. So when it comes to things like technology and developing stuff, you have policy, you have regulation, you have legislation, but ethics is a really big topic.
Yeah.
And we lag behind it so badly because ethically, it might not be illegal to do something, but if you don't consider ethics when you're programming something or how it's going to affect humanity or what could happen if it came into the wrong arms or hands, wrong arms.
Yeah. That's a whole different podcast.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
ethics, there's a lot of things that aren't regulated, but ethics are lagging and they need to be put in place because they could essentially destroy humanity. Like machine learning, AI, all of that stuff, that's really dangerous.
That's a really good point actually.
But I've hijacked that, so
And
Yeah.
you know, you bringing in culture reminds me of like a conversation I had a few years ago, and it's like the same thing with cultures. Some cultures, it's okay to eat dogs.
yeah,
Western cultures, for instance, it's like, hell no, you don't.
Yeah,
no,
you can't
it's
eat
a
pets.
pet. And that comes into the culture,
Yeah.
the ethics, and
yeah,
how
that's
it
right.
changes. Yeah.
How much of it do you think depends on I guess, the amount of people or society that it would impact?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, obviously, smacking a car into a bus full of school children is going to impact a lot of people. If we just sort of wheel that back a little bit, the first example you gave was, like I said, a single-player game that impacted nobody but you.
Like myself.
It wasn't illegal. You owned the game. You created the save file by playing the game.
Yeah.
So, obviously, if that was like, an MMO, massive, multi-online game, then sure, that would have an impact on other people and could therefore, so if you were cheating in that sense, yes, it could be, immoral, unethical.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to you, I guess it's the same thing where choosing to be a vegetarian or not, that because they believe that's going to go out impact animals, for example, so you may choose to do that. But what if it was you decided to not drink any sort of soda or, not partake in sugar for your own good? Would you then deem somebody that was doing that to be
No.
on the opposite side? But the only
No,
person, that's what I'm saying. I know I'm sort of going to an extreme, but that's because that only impacts you, or it only impacts me. And that's the point I was trying to get to, is like, how much of a difference does it make?
Yeah. And going back to Cozzy's game, is there's two different aspects there, which is like, I used to play Call of Duty many years ago, the zombies, where you used to be able to jump up on a window ledge. It was a slight glitch in the game. You jump up there and get up to level 99 and pretty much beat the impossible game and be number one on the leaderboard. There's a whole heap of people up there in 99 levels, and depends how long they kept their PlayStation on for. And that, I've done that, and it's like, a bit of fun, like everyone knows sort of thing, you're on the leaderboard. But then there's, as you say, like multiplayer game. But if you've got an aimbot, if you've got cheats with aimbot and headshots, you're actually destroying the game, and the other people that are playing fairly, it's destroying their gameplay and the whole game ecosystem itself. So one player to multiplayer, it's
And that's exactly that's exactly the scenarios, because they start off easy, like, a lot of people, it's an easy decision for a lot of people to make, but then it starts getting more complicated because more things come into play, more consideration, like you'll have, babies in the car, or you'll have, one of the questions is, you have a choice between a homeless man and a professional. Do you know? So that's why it comes down to what people value. Ethics is really, I think, derived from a combination of values and morals based on that cultural society.
And you think
And that person in general.
Yeah, and that person
that
in general,
society,
exactly.
There's multiple
And
different ethics.
at first thought, I mean, depending on the type of person you were, given the choice with the Tesla test to run over a person or hit a pole and kill yourself, I would personally, I immediately just jumped to, I'd hit the pole.
Yeah.
I'd be
Me too.
However, what if your entire family were in the car with you?
Yes, that's a
Exactly.
whole
So,
different thing.
so they had that option. See, that's where the
Exactly.
complication comes in because a lot of humans and a lot of people.
Yes.
The thing is, where there was a lot of slight differences. Humanity still overall did agree on a lot of things. When it came to the choice only affecting them, their choices were very different. But when you start adding different levels, different concepts, now you have an option. Do you kill this or everyone in your car? Do you save everyone in your car or do you kill the passenger? Do you it's really, it uses game theory, it uses so many considerations, and you guys should do it. It's actually not a Tesla test.
No, but
It was designed to derive what information globally we needed as people, as a human race, to agree on whether global regulation should be in place. And for anyone listening that wants to go on, it's online, it's for free. It's called The Ethical Dilemma, and it's like a series of between 15 to 30 questions that you can answer, and then you get a answer at the end telling you what you're more likely to value, which is cool. But like you said, a lot of people wouldn't even hesitate if they had a choice between killing themselves and saving a busload of people. They wouldn't sacrifice all these people to save themselves. But it becomes entirely different if you have your family in the car and there's someone on the road. And that just shows the different levels of complexity and how you actually have to choose when you get this car how you're going to program it, because you have to remember that these cars are not perfect. There is no point in the car thinking that there's a person and running you into the wall when that was a bin and you've just killed yourself. So
I mean, look, go ahead.
I think there should be cause the least harm option in those.
But it's just it's like thinking.
But least harm, it is one death for one death.
It's up to you to determine what that least harm
Not
is.
everybody dies if they drive into a pole.
I mean, using your example, it was okay to jump up on that window ledge with the glitch because everybody else was doing it.
Well,
But
it
if you
didn't
were
harm
But that's what I'm saying. If you were the only person doing it and it was impacting others, so it's not just how many people it impacts, but it's who they are.
And how it impacts them.
That's exactly right.
With the so if you go from that to the Web 1, right? I'm just building up to this one, right? In the Web 1 world, so that's it's like the web, not Web 1, it's the web. The internet came up, right? And then you start doing things, learning things, and all this stuff, and then the whole the online chat started. Obviously, when I started using internet in 1996, right, with the 9.6 modem, at that point, I would say I was one of the few people to start on the internet in Sri Lanka, right? Very privileged in that sense, but what did you do? I think we developed an application to update World Cup cricket scores in a VB software, right? All that stuff in that space. I think at that point, from a time being okay, this is you in your world. You had only like the game, right? It only matters to me. No harm. When you crack the software, whatever, it's me. And then when the internet came and all the various sites, right? All the various sites. What happens was all the serial numbers got published. You can copy and paste, and you crack your software. And
so, just for Maureen, what are these sites? What were they?
It's where's spelled with
with a Z at the end, right? Where's with a Z at the end. So these are the sites that you can download cracks. You can a list of
even
serial
prior
numbers.
to those sites and things existing. There used to be computer swap meets, where people would just pile up with, at the time it was piles of floppy disks and things of that nature, and I've got this software, you've got that software, and these things being swapped.
So are we categorizing now whether we think cheating is ethical, whether we think behavioral choices are ethical, unethical.
Exactly. Now, because you brought up a good question, it's like, is it doing the common sense right or wrong and the code of ethics?
Yeah, or
to be
morals.
honest, morals, right?
Yeah.
Now, for me, to be honest, I thought they're both the same until you just mentioned it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
and for me,
and that's what I was saying.
It's wrong or right, but it's not the same thing.
Well, I guess the first ones to come out for like the code of ethics, which, you know, who knows what the world was like back then, it was a lot more dangerous, would be like the Bible or the Quran.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
but see, that is morals and values. That's what I was saying. Like,
and ethics at the same time to live by.
But it's sort of like an a cutoff, because I was in the same boat as all of you guys, but because I've had, I don't know if I would call it a privilege or a disprivilege of having to study it, but as a lawyer, because I had to go through those things, I was also, you know, one thing the study of law shows you is that there's right and wrong, but then there's what you can prove. So you can be you can do the technically legally the right thing, doesn't mean it's ethical. So this is where that, and I at some stage before learning this and having to learn the differentiation, I also was like, I was under the belief when I was younger that ethics was based on morals.
Yes.
And then you learn that that's actually, it's not the case, because not everyone has the same morals, not everyone has the same values, but ethics is a stream of like, almost an agreed level of what we can agree on. We can all agree, even if we have different cultural beliefs, different morals, different values, this set of things is the minimum that we can agree on.
Yeah.
So our code of ethics, like, you know, we, as a lawyer, as an engineer, as an accountant, we every year sign, when we're getting admitted, an agreed code of ethics that we practice by. So, you know, we have to meet certain standards, conduct ourselves in a certain way, blah, blah, blah. It's the minimum agreed thing that we've come to.
Okay.
So
guys, if you guys are on Spaces, if you have any, Code X, since we're saying unethical, moral, or unprincipled, there's a difference. The question is always why. Is it to hack your save in single player, moral and ethical, etc., to mod it to make it more fun for other gay area, or to read the software regarding software for financial game unethical? What if the person being hit is a serial killer? Question mark. A doctor? Question mark.
Yes.
An old person, a child. The car can't know that without data.
That's
so
correct.
do we use facial recognition to then make judgment calls?
that's exactly what they do. It's a slippery slope, my
slippery
friend.
slope. That's what he
Is
said.
that what it says?
Yeah,
I agree. Who is that, by the way?
So
Come and visit us.
Code X. So
Yeah, you begin to play with fire because it becomes a slippery slope, and that's why ethics, this study of ethics, rolls into all these other data sets. All this emerging technology, they rely heavily on the data that's fed into them and the quality of data. And what you realize is now we go back to how all these technologies were programmed, and we realize that there are inherent biases. All right, the data that they fed into it, even though machines are great and they have no emotion, they still base their decision on the data that was fed. So if you go ahead and look at something like in America, the facial recognition system worked great on white people, but unfortunately, in the UK and in America, they were mixing up Asians and black people and stuff, and they were so people were getting done in the street for being wanted criminals just because they were black, and the data that was fed in was so bad. So there's so many examples of this all over the world, that the data sets were programmed by, unfortunately, like white, middle-aged men, and all the data that was set, and then it was like hardened into these sets. So we basically had a historical bias fed through in the data
It's
sets.
an inherent bias.
An inherent bias.
So we have Codex requested to speak. So I'm going to bring you up, my friend. Give me 2 seconds. All right, Codex, you have the stage now, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. You said come visit, so I decided to come visit.
Yeah, I was like, come on in and say hello. Hi, how's it going?
Actually, been good. I actually love this stuff, and I've been looking at ethics and AI for a couple of years now.
Me too.
Shout out to the 3AI Institute in Canberra who look at that exact sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's a big question.
It is a big question, and it opens so many cans of worms because not enough people think about it. I think people think, wow, technology is so advanced, they're going to get it right where humans got it wrong, but they forget that it all comes down to who programmed it. Mm-hmm. So we're even talking about things as simple as hand dryers. You put your hand under it to turn the thing. It wasn't recognizing people of color, so they could not get it going. So you're getting like facial recognition on a mobile phone. It wasn't picking up because the data sets were what's the word? Skewed and corrupted. They call it. What are your thoughts, Codex? Codex is such a cool name. What? Do you have an opinion?
Well, at the end of the day, you can't do anything without an unconscious bias.
Yeah.
So unless you've got a truly diverse team of people looking at that data and a truly diverse source of data, which is basically at the end of the day all the data and all the people, you're always going to have some sort of unconscious bias.
Yeah. And we see
then when you actually then develop that, you get the uncomfortable truth that tends to happen with humans is we see ourselves reflected back at us and we go, ooh,
yes.
Ooh, is that really how we all think? Ooh.
yeah, and that's the problem. But I think, and I agree completely with you, but I think that the way forward is people that need to be consciously aware that when they are creating things of the data that they're being fed. I know we all have unconscious bias, but that is why the new regulations and ethics that are being developed when it comes to emerging technologies is in the ethical code is that you must consider all races and blah, 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 and have a certain representation in your data so that you can be sure that we are not repeating bad habits of history, essentially.
Yeah.
So.
And then you've got the other one, which we see with social media companies, left wing, right wing.
Yeah.
And that's a totally another ball game as well, which, you know what I mean? It's hard because we are human.
But I think one of the,
different.
and really valid points, right? And given that, in university, I think with regards to when you're doing a software engineering degree, one of the modules is like ethics in software development. Because before when I was going to uni and doing my software engineering degree, and that was I was in 2003, 2004, actually 2004, 2005, around that time. And at that point, when I was doing my software engineering degree, and that time when you heard about this software, like okay, that makes sense because when you're coding your stuff, you have to make sure that it's done for the in good. When you know that something is being dodgy, you don't do it because you have the responsibility to go back to your managers, to your leaders, to your CEOs, and say, you know what, this is not right. I'm not going to do it, and you can stand by, and it will hold held in in court. That's what we've been told. You can't just say like, oh, because my manager asked me to do it, I coded it that way. It does not fly, right? And
it's like that in the construction site too,
with
safety.
And that's exactly why.
Like what? What do you mean? Like because that's coming from we're talking about software here. I mean that from the.
Well, for instance, something. It's raining. You're walking up ladders. The boss is like, "Get it done." Most of us Kiwis are like, "Sure, we'll get up there. Let's get it done." And by the laws and the safety requirements, you've got to say no. You've got to say no. But real world to the paperwork and construction is so
different, right?
It's very blurred,
Very blurred.
And that's why they've changed it. So it might not be illegal, but if it's unethical, they can still take action. And so by bringing in those safety nets,
when it goes to court by them stating that, hey, that's not safe, it goes, I told them it wasn't safe. They carried on. They kept getting everybody to work, and that's what happened if something bad does happen.
Yeah.
I mean, now you know what? When I came to this podcast, I thought, we just like ethics, because in my head, now I'm talking. Now it's like, is it ethics or morals, or is it what am I talking?
Yeah.
Now I'm confused.
The lines blur.
We need a code of ethics.
Yeah.
You need to build a code of ethics.
And that's right. And see, and it's exactly right. I'm really glad that you chose this topic, and this is a completely impromptu topic, so we're having this conversation for the first time. But I love this topic because it is a topic that so many people, I guess, misunderstand just because of lack of knowledge or having to deal with it. People often believe that we all see things the same, but it's only when we're faced with different opinions and justification of opinions do we realize, well, hold on a second, I didn't think of that. So ethics are not necessarily morals, they're not necessarily values, and they're there to protect people for the better good, not for cultural beliefs, not because of religious beliefs, but for what we can all agree is a bare minimum in moving forward for humanity. So like ethics, I think, is one of the most important and understated topics in technology, because these ethics are causing ethical standards and bare minimum standards. And without these topics being discussed in technology, people are not realizing how your decision now can be fed into a machine and coded and hardened, and could really carry down a bad decision of history into humanity.
So Codex, you got anything to say on it?
Yeah, so shout out to my fellow, I'm an expert construction worker there.
That's Charlie. That's Charlie.
Charlie. It raises some another part of it, this whole thing. In fact, there's two parts of it, but the other part of it's gone on for ages, which is rules of code and codifying, which we're getting into. But at the end of the day, this is, even though we argue about semantics, it's about it's about doing what is right.
Yes.
And the reason we have these discussions in construction, in software development and everything else is because at the end of the day, the thing we don't like to admit is doing it right, doing the right thing is expensive.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we don't like that.
You
now,
just hit the
taking
nail
our
on the head.
Tesla example, if we sit there and go, right, well, what's the ethical dilemma? Do we hit the pole? Do we hit the person? Do we hit the puppy? Do we hit the kid? How about we just make cars that go 5 kilometres an hour and can brake on a dime? Well, sorry, the answer there is no one's going to buy your car.
Yes. Yes.
But it's expensive to do it right.
Yeah.
And it's the same with construction. Should I go up there with a training? Should I not? At the end of the day, it comes down to the bottom line. It comes down to whether you're taking home a paycheck, are you getting the job done in time? Is the foreman happy? It's money.
It's exactly right.
All of these discussions come back to money, because if there was no money involved, it'd be a no-brainer. You just do what's right.
Yeah. Money and time. That's what I think.
That's
Guys.
exactly right. You made a great point. No,
And I've got a question for you, Maureen.
Yep.
So does code of ethics come from government, legislators?
Well, no. Most ethical codes come
There's
from
a
the
part B to
bodies.
this.
Oh, okay. Should I wait?
No, carry on.
Okay, so ethics.
Code of ethics.
Yeah, so the code of ethics, even though it's not law, it can be upheld by professional bodies that deem you, if you have agreed to a code of
Like
ethics.
a business's code of ethics
Yeah,
compared
so
to a government
Organised
code of
crime
ethics.
operates by a code of ethics.
Sorry?
Yes.
Organised crime operates by a code
Exactly,
of
that's what I'm saying. It's an agreed set of rules by the bodies involved. It might not be illegal, but we all work to our own kind of ethical standards amongst our own little groups of people. You know, like you said, even criminals have ethics, and some. All right, I'm getting some weird looks. I'm going to go ahead and say
It's
some
the
criminals.
people culture.
Yeah.
But it is.
But it's all in different.
It's the
different
set of
areas.
rules that have been agreed by a group of people that need to come together for a certain minimum standard to be met. Do you know
Okay, in
what I
that
mean?
case,
For instance, I've just been watching Narcos recently. Traditionally, with the cartels in Colombia, the rules was you don't kill women and children.
Exactly.
yeah.
Traditionally in Japan, with the Yakuza, you don't kill civilians. Police are okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and see, like it's sort of like an agreed standard, don't you think, Codex?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's pirates. Pirates were the ultimate democracy.
Yeah.
I love pirates.
Yes.
And the rules, the ethics said that if a sailor lost a limb, then the ship would pull in and support that person's family.
Yeah.
And make sure he had an income. That was the ethical thing to do.
See, I love that.
That's cool.
And that's
Morals are things like don't eat people. We can all generally agree, no matter what. Eating people is bad.
well, I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer did it. So.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And,
So
and principles are where where you personally won't do something because your own beliefs.
Yeah.
Some people, for instance, won't work on AI because they believe that it's going to lead to a singularity, which replaces God, and they have religious beliefs or whatever. It's little things like that. It's not that society or the profession agrees. It's that you yourself just won't do it.
Yeah, it's a matter of principle.
And
Yeah.
I guess that comes into my part B of the question.
Yeah.
Is what's the code of ethics today in AI?
This is a really good
Because
question.
I know
That's
they're catching on to legislation with blockchain and tokens, but
And
they haven't even touched base on AI even
and-
as much, and it's a lot more dangerous. Like, there was a fake AI video with the drones.
the deep fake.
yeah, I've
deep
seen that.
fake.
I've seen that. And that's one of the
But,
things I was
yeah,
trying to
that's
say
my
before,
question.
and I'm glad you asked that. I did a poor effort of explaining it before, but see, like legislation is set by law, and so legislation might be by a specific area, country, whatever, but ethics is a lot of industries set ethics. So you might be in, say, AI all over the world, and what people don't understand is even though legislation and regulation and global laws are lagging, ethical practices need to be put in place and they need to be upheld whether they're legal or not, because at the end of the day, if you do not act in an ethical manner when you are developing technology, whether it's illegal or not, whether the law has caught up or not, that's a problem, because AI has the potential to be more dangerous than nuclear weapons, but it's unregulated. The law hasn't caught up. So the ethics with technology and robotics is that it... Hello?
Yes. Codex.
Oh no, I was just going to say, while we don't have those things, weirdly enough, it's one of the first written set of ethics we have in the modern world is the 3 laws of robotics.
Yeah, which you cannot harm humans. Like
Asimov.
yeah.
That's right.
But that's exactly what they have to operate by, because the basic principle, that's what I'm saying, it comes down to the core basic of what we can all agree on. Yeah. We might all come from different places, different cultures, different backgrounds, different values, whatever, but we have to agree on a bare minimum set of standards where we know we cannot hurt humanity and we cannot risk knowingly causing harm to people because of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like you cannot knowingly do something where you're gonna hit a minority or you're gonna do something. So with AI, you have to have things in place. You can't knowingly do it. You have to now have ethics where you develop safety things and stuff that can, like, it's really complicated.
But can the AI learn itself
Well,
around that?
No,
as
you
well?
can't. I mean, how can you?
It's gotta.
We don't know because AI learns.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. And
Yeah,
what's he
so
gonna learn from
and that's why
experience?
it's so dangerous.
There was one where
That
they.
raises 2 interesting points. So
Yeah.
the first one is on legislation, and it just goes past to the big picture. So if you take a step back, if government is essentially the business area that performs a social contract between people, legislation simply becomes a set of business requirements by which those services will be delivered. So legislation actually has a direct tie into software development type of thing when you start to think about AI and automated decision making, and it's just a set of business requirements.
Yeah.
And we go back to, certainly in Australia, we go back to second reading speeches where it's the intent of the legislation. You can't just take the legislation as writ. It's what the intention was.
Yeah, the interpretation of the act. Yeah, absolutely.
Interpretation. It's one of the only countries in the world that has an Acts Interpretation Act. I mean,
Is that true?
Yes.
How Westminster are we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then when you get into the AI ethics stuff, it's that we don't have real AI yet. What we have is automated decision making.
Yes, that's what we don't have general.
Except where they actually, and I'm pretty sure it was Google, inadvertently discovered they probably do have an AI and an aware neural network, and they know it's aware because it lied to them.
Yes, and didn't it talk to each other?
In an effort to make sure it wasn't turned off.
Yes,
It created
that is
its own
terrifying.
language
That is
between
absolutely
itself.
terrifying. Didn't they have to
So-
shut it down?
Yeah.
Well, no, we don't know whether they've shut
Yeah.
it down or not.
The one,
But
Yeah.
do you commit murder because it's become self-aware? Is it murder?
Yes.
Yeah. What does it
It's an
consider?
ethical issue, right?
Yeah.
that's
Is it entitled to super and overtime?
I mean, the one that you mentioned about from Facebook, they're the one who created that, and then
The one with the languages.
The
They
language.
changed
Yeah.
into their own language and they didn't know what it was communicating
Yeah.
with them all, so they had to shut it off. Yeah.
But you know what? This is terrifying. I have to say, you guys bringing this up is giving me flashbacks to me studying for that year. I had severe anxiety. I'm not even
Well,
kidding.
It was one of our first conversations.
Yeah, I'm
wasn't
like
it?
me and Charlie talked at length about this because, just so you know, Codex, I did the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology's. I won't give you the full length, but it's in emerging technology. It's basically global law, policy, and regulation in emerging tech. And we had to dive in to, like, globally what governments and big corporations were confidentially doing with all these technologies and their testing. And obviously that material is not open to the public, but they are playing God, they're playing with fire, they are playing with stuff that it's very easy to slip through their fingers and cause like a global unrest. Like, this technology is dangerous, and that is why things need to catch up to it. But the problem is that governments are very hesitant to, the reason legislation lags is because they do not want to restrict innovation. They don't want to over-regulate, but at the same time to let it go so freely. And that is why codes of ethics and standards are coming to the bodies that are working on it. They agree outside of law, like they have their own set of rulings, their own set of standards, their own set of ethics that they choose to abide by for the greater good, because even though the law has lagged out of fear of red tape regulation, we need things in place because it is terrifying.
So
Well, it's not just that, and I'll deep dive into it for a second, given your studies and that type of thing. There's a book by a fellow called Philip Bobbert. He advised presidents, worked for the NSA, that type of thing, called Shield of Achilles, and he basically covers the rise of the virtual state. And that's what we're dealing with now. Is you can legislate all you want, governments can do whatever they want, but we are talking technology that knows no boundaries. We're talking technology that 12-year-old kids can make on their home computer. They can make an AI.
Yes.
They can teach programs to do things and release it. You just got to look at Stuxnet from the cybersecurity point of view. It's like,
of course.
a little virus got out, and what do you know? It's shutting down nuclear reactors everywhere. You can't control this, and that's why they're also reticent, because they have no idea what they've got.
Yeah, exactly. And it has no limits. They don't know what its capabilities are. It is scary because you can control humans, but when it comes to AI and machine learning, it can very easily get out of hand because it learns that quickly that it will outdo humans and their capacity very easily.
More importantly, what it can't do is understand.
Yeah, well, they're working on that as well.
Go ahead, it's great.
Understand how people think. They can only learn. Cannot really make decisions.
I guess when we get into talking on this type of scale, see, in my mind, when we started, you had what was legal, so there was the law. Outside of that, you have what is ethical, which is generally determined by bodies or groups of people that you're dealing with. And then outside of that, you had what you personally deem to be moral.
Yeah.
Okay? But here's where this gets a little bit odd, at least in my mind. So, all well and good to have laws in place to protect us, but if somebody lets the AI genie out of the box and it wipes out half of humanity, it's a bit late to go and sue them at that point. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Which is, I think, why the ethics are so important.
Yeah, exactly.
To try and deter this. So even though it may not be illegal, the ethics are ridiculously important.
Yeah, exactly the point. Yeah.
So then, can we have a ethic? Like, is it ethically correct that right? Like, as in Blockstars, like everyone has to have an NFT. Like,
What?
We all do, Cozzy.
no, there are some who doesn't have an NFT here, and I'm
No,
ashamed.
we all do.
Is it? Like
Osbots.
even Lawrence? Ah, yeah. Now, okay.
Even
Without the
Lawrence.
Osbots.
So yeah,
Even Lawrence.
That just
Okay.
took a turn. I'm confused.
No, I'm
Cozzy was
like,
about to go right up the code of ethics for
Any
Blockstars.
video game from the 70s onwards that's on massive multiplayer online, you own an NFT.
isn't it? That's so true. I mean, that's how it all started from that time, and then you already own an NFT. But so if we talk about from that to social, like Web 2.0, where the whole social media came
Yeah.
up, right?
Yeah.
Now, social dilemma like on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. I love that movie.
It's a very, very good doco.
Right.
Yeah.
So right. So seeing
Docudrama.
docudrama, right, type of deal, right? So seeing that, and then we come to the Web3, the blockchain world, right? Let's talk about ethics in the blockchain world, because it's supposed to be the decentralized, democratized, and power to the people.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
we totally bypassed Pirate Bay, for instance. I haven't watched. I don't believe I've watched A Social Dilemma, or it might have been a long time ago. But I've been watching the playlist on Spotify.
Yeah.
The creation of Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify, right? Yes.
And Pirate Bay felt their ethics were right for everyone to
Correct.
have free music, and the music studios
Yes.
were doing unfair deals to artists for many years. We're going, now we're losing all this money, and their ethics were saying this is wrong and criminal. In Sweden,
Yes, in Sweden.
started in
Yes.
Sweden, and then they ended up arresting them, and
Yeah.
the big Pirate Bay court case happened. And then Spotify comes along, and then
And the Spotify came along. Sorry, Craig. And then they say like like Spotify said like, oh, we are giving a platform for the artists, for the musicians.
and it didn't.
But then they
That's
just
the
like,
last episode of
that's the last. Okay, so
Yeah.
how they treat
The
the
artists.
artists.
Yeah.
And is it I don't feel okay. They give a platform to the artists, but then they're not really. For artists to get paid, they can't. In that platform. And it's still those.
I think everyone can agree that there are generally extremes to either side.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got, in this instance, the music industry where you had the big recording companies absolutely screwing over the artists. And then you go completely the other side. It's like, no, just give away all music for free. Right? Which is great for the people and the consumer, but that doesn't look after the artists.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the thing is that line is somewhere in between those two. I'm not going to say it's in the middle, it's in between those two.
Yes.
But where that is can vary depending from person to person, I guess.
Yeah.
And like I said before, it comes back to money, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I'll throw out two more examples. One that wasn't covered in that doco, but there was a fellow called Aaron Schwartz. And I knew him back in the day, but Aaron was arrested by the FBI and charged with 11 counts of computer misuse.
Yeah.
And we're facing federal terms for a very, very long time. He was a young man. He was the guy who came up with markup. He was the guy who invented RSS. He provided so much to the technology standards that we use today. It's not funny. Now, his crime was hacking into a university server called JSTOR and it's stealing papers, research, and publishing it on the internet so that people could just have free knowledge.
Wow.
And they charged him, and he ended up committing suicide rather than going to jail.
Wow.
Yeah.
On the other side, closer to home, Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree.
Yeah, that's
We're not
right.
allowed to use that in schools anymore.
In
just
schools
because
anymore.
some music company decided, you know what?
They
No,
got
we
caught-
own that.
IP, yes. And it is crazy when you think like that. So it's
And I guess another one too, which is blurred, Craig, and I'd love your opinion on here, and it's still
You may not.
no, I always love your opinion, Craig, either way it goes. But it's still going through court now. They actually raided his house and they're trying to extradite him from New Zealand. Is Kim.com with mega uploads, where Kim.com made the platform and we all know what he made it for, but he's saying, I never told anybody to upload movies. I just created a file sharing platform. And it will come into a later topic in here as well. But what's your opinions on creating a file sharing platform, but allowing people to upload pirated movies, obviously?
That's like anything. I'm going to give you an automotive analogy.
Yes.
I love them.
Do I think it's, should be banned, unethical, illegal to make or drive a motor vehicle? No, I don't. But you can weaponize just about anything is the problem.
Yeah.
A stick that I could use to break up, burn, and keep a family warm can be used to club somebody over the head. I know that's a bit dark.
Yeah.
So I guess for me it depends on its use. Okay?
Yeah.
If you were the one that created the thing, fine. I don't have an issue with it being created if it's being used for the right purpose. But if you knowingly were collecting sticks, for example, and giving them to people so they could go and beat other people, that I don't think is cool.
Yeah.
So
it comes down to proving who knew what and what was going on.
I think,
which is very hard.
The King.com one is a little bit cut and dried and kind of easy in that sense. So there's genuine acceptance worldwide that if you're a publisher of material, you are somewhat responsible of the material for the material you publish. If you've got a newspaper and someone writes an open letter to the editor and it's full of swear words and it says all sorts of horrible things, you're kind of responsible for publishing that because you're allowed it to go to press. If you make a file sharing platform and you know that the file's being shared there,
you facilitate it.
Possibly pirated, then you have some sort of legal obligation because you've got some sort of just, recognition that you're allowing it to happen.
I'd like to interject just for a quick sec because they weren't necessarily publishing that stuff. I guess if you're going to go down the publishing route and somebody posting something, consider this. If somebody obviously writes something that people aren't happy about, as you said with a newspaper, or I'll put it in a book in this instance, sure, publisher's one thing, but this was more like the library. Is the library then responsible for the content of each and every book in it? And if they are, is that not then censorship?
It'd be like
for making those books available to people, yes, and the library. So, accept books, right? Now, if Kim had gone off and built Tor and the Onion network, where everything's encrypted, you can sit there and go, look, how people use this is up to them. It is just technology, same as blockchain.
I guess with the what you call Tornado Cash, similar thing.
Well, that's what I was coming to from the Kim.com
to the Tornado
and that's
Cash.
The way that I look at Tornado Cash is the same. It's the same thing, but Web 2 to Web 3.
Yeah,
do you agree, Craig?
And Tornado Cash, the issue the governments have with Tornado Cash is it can be used to launder money.
Yes.
But it can also be used to obfuscate legitimate finances being passed around by activists or by minority groups or at-risk workers.
Yeah.
How you use it, and it goes back to the thing I said originally, it comes down to the why.
Yeah.
Now, if governments take a heavy-handed approach and go, well, look, 1% of you are using it for money laundering, so none of you can use it, that's probably not really good.
That's not good, yeah.
And it's not fair and it's not right. Like that, at the end of the day, I know what both of you guys are saying, and even though I'm a lawyer, I actually don't think that it's fair that someone that created something can be held responsible for the actions of the other. Like, what if someone used it for good and they made heaps of money? Did he get money out of it because they benefited it? So they don't reward someone for the success of something, but if something goes wrong or someone uses it for bad, and at the end of the day, like you said, anything can be used. You can literally abuse anything. All right, someone can make cheesecake and someone can eat too much of it and get obese. Do you know what I mean? Like anything there is, it's all about balance. People will always find two sides of it, and I'll bring it back to that social dilemma. Like those people that worked on those programs were paid to do it. They could have never have known the damage that those things that they worked on was going to cause to humanity, society, and everything. But they meant well, but the stuff that they created got used in the wrong way and instead harmed people.
And keeping that exact thought in your head right now, if you just switch it back to the AI thing before, that's what makes that so scary.
Yeah.
Is that those people could be thinking, no, what I'm doing here is a good thing, it's going to help, but they don't know.
And there's that saying, you know, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. You know, perception and how you see it all comes down to the story that we tell ourselves. You know, if someone believes that they're doing the right thing and they act on it, like they could genuinely believe that they're doing the right thing.
So,
and that's right. It's like, so in that sense, and you bring it back to DeFi, if Tornado Cash is allowing decentralized finance to a degree to you know, transact without someone knowing who you are, is it the technology's fault, or should governments and law enforcement, you know, if we all agree that money laundering, quote unquote, is bad, should they do a better job at detecting it?
But
instead of just smashing their technology? Because at the end of the day, what's the difference between Tornado Cash and having a network of accountants resulting in things like the Panama Papers?
Yes.
When government sits there and goes, oh, it's just too hard to go after big business. They're too good at hiding money.
and
But we can
that's
go after little guys.
Yeah, they didn't go and, like, you know, make accountants illegal, for example.
and that's and see, that's the thing. And one of the things that come into ethics of, and we'll bring it back to blockchain, one of the big things is it's such a crazy balance, because in reality, people actually deserve the right to have privacy, to protect their privacy, to not have every bit of their financial information or what they spend their money. They deserve that. And you cannot, and I hate this topic, because you can't turn around and say, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't care if people know.
that should not be.
And I hate that response. Like when they say, oh, that person's phone is tapped, or you should be able to track their thing, and people want privacy. You cannot say, well, you shouldn't care if you're not doing anything illegal. You should allow it to be open and accessible, but that's not the case. People deserve the right to privacy and to do things on their own accord. And this is governments wanting people, like governments are actually pushing to go to a cashless society, because if we do take finances all on the blockchain, that means, you know, people are having their privacy and their security stripped from them, because then everything you do is, you know, you can track it, you can every little last, and it's all about power and control. They are getting absolute power and control, which becomes dangerous.
And just
and if you want to go right back in time, this all started 4,000 years ago or so in China, when basically some guy walked up and went, well, you know, it's great that you think a goat is worth 2 of those shiny pieces of stone there, or that shovel is worth, you know, 6 loaves of bread. But see this piece of paper I printed with a number on it and my face on it? Me and all my mates with swords, if we catch any of you trading with anything else other than this, we're going to kill you.
Yes.
It's all controlled.
And it's been the same ever since.
Ever since.
Even today, I can't turn around and go, you know what, I'll swap you 3 goats for a car. Without the government going, you're evading tax.
But it becomes dangerous when we put, you know, power corrupts. Absolute power absolutely corrupts. So,
and to touch base with you, Maureen, on if you're not doing anything wrong, you've got nothing to hide.
Yes.
Well, that's all fine for now, but what happens when there's a dictatorship
Exactly.
taking over your country, and then you're
100%.
People cannot give up their freedom and their security so easily.
It's gone too far that when a bad actor does get that power, you've seen it in many countries before, how quick
It happens in so many South Asian countries.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is, we've all said it, we've all individually touched on it. What is bad to one person might not necessarily. So this becomes like, you know, who's to say that you're doing the wrong thing? Who's to say that, you know, you're bad? If we are going to bow down to the control of governments and authorities, like we saw it, you know, in the past, I won't hit COVID too much, but people were crippled because they were told to do something against their own will. They had the right to earn money and finances and all that stuff because they were told what to do. Their choice was removed. Whether it was right or wrong, to remove a person's freedom of choice is an issue, and that's how we go into muddy, dangerous waters.
So if I could step back just for a tick, because I want to touch on the privacy thing as well, which is what I'm actually getting to here. But if I go back to the stick analogy, if I'm selling big sticks to, sorry Charlie, but to Charlie.
Yeah.
Sorry, Charlie.
No. But, and I know that Charlie's using those sticks to club somebody over the head.
He hit me on the leg.
But it's my choice then to decide whether I want to sell him the sticks or not, right?
Yes, that's right.
So now what I want to get at is, and I absolutely agree with you on the whole privacy issue as well.
Yeah.
But if everything Charlie does is so private that I don't know he's hitting people on the head, that then impacts my ability to act ethically.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so funny because what the issue here is we're putting the power into governments. At the end of the day, on that same analogy, if you hand someone a loaded gun and they kill themselves or they kill someone else, under that same logic, yet here we are, there's two sides of the stories. Americans will fight so heavily for their gun rights because they have the right to arms. And at the end of the day, we've seen in recent years, a lot of us Australians disagreed with that fact because we saw so many people get killed and there were times where bad actors did that. But at the same time, the government was careful to not take away all their rights because they knew should they do that, the pushback could have been enormous. So it does come down to checks and balances. We've got the extreme end of both sides, and I'm not saying that, but without people still keeping some control and protection like the reason they have that in their amendment is to overthrow government should it go bad.
Yeah.
And you know what, we've seen in recent years that, you know, like, no offense, the government, anyone that thinks like, oh no, I trust the government, like, whoa.
I trust government.
Oh, that's you, Cuzzy, and we need to talk about that later.
We don't need no contract with the government.
Yes, Americans have that right.
Yes.
We have that right as well. A lot of people walk around going, oh, we banned guns. No, we didn't ban guns. We banned people having unregistered firearms. Yeah. And there are still a crap ton of firearms in Australia used across everywhere. And the thing with the Americans is they have the right to have arms. They don't have the right to murder people.
Exactly. The use of the product is different.
Your check and balance is, yes, you can have the item, but what you do with it, you will be held responsible for.
Exactly. But that's the reality of it. You cannot have so much control. You have to be able... People have to have the right to choose. Just because something's bad does not mean you can remove it. Like, as humans, we deserve the right. People know that smoking kills. They could have easily banned that, but they didn't. You make money. It's all about greed, taxes, whatever. You know it's killing you.
They know pokie machines.
Yeah, exactly. They know gambling.
To the lower class.
That's the rule for me and the rule should be. It's like if we sat there and said that tax evasion and owning things and not reporting it, being transparent, and if you're not doing anything wrong, be fully transparent. How come every other week we have politicians come out where they've made dodgy deals or they've hidden money or they've got overseas accountants or
they leave government and end up in a nice paying job for an oil company.
What you need to remember is that they're the ones that aren't very good at it, and that's why they got caught. It's all the ones that are good at it that you don't hear about.
So if you bring right back to Web3, right?
Yes, sorry.
Don't be sorry because this is like...
We get carried away, don't we?
I'm all right. It's like saying, oh, let's talk about this NFT projects, and after that we're talking about something else, right? It's like, about oil companies and all that. I love those chats, and I just want to bring it back to DeFi, right? So we have seen, like, recently there have been few, I don't, this is what I'm struggling. Are they hacks or not hacks, right? So in the DeFi space, like, there's some bridges, and there are, very smart people who play the system, who's like, okay, it's set out there. I used it. It's there. I used it. I mean, like, the system allowed it. What is that? What is it for?
Can I please, like, there was a perfect one just recently at the moment, and you sort of have a laugh, but you realise, there's a lot of money being lost. There's the mango markets.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, the mango markets.
The guy hacked the mango markets and got, I don't know, 200 million, like 200 million.
116 million US.
There you go.
Yeah, and then went to the DAO and voted for himself not to go to jail and all the stolen funds to vote yes on that proposal. He got to keep X amount of money and give some back.
He said, I'll return X amount of money if you pay off this bad debt that you took that is impacting all of your users.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they agreed to that. So we did a Robin Hood.
Yes.
And I was actually going to raise that issue earlier.
And that's the point I think we all kind of keep coming back to in different words.
Yes.
At the end of the day, like a lot of people at the top, if you're good at what you do, like we need those people. We need hackers. We need, like they are, even though they commit crimes sometimes, they are the smartest of the smart. You got to be smart to pull that stuff off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like look at how many, like look at WikiLeaks. Okay, I'm just going to use that as an example. I think that was awesome. I love someone breaking into the system to call out people at the top that have done the wrong thing.
Yes.
You know, he's getting, you know, reprimanded, but the people that he blew the whistle on that were doing horrendous, heinous things that it affected, nothing happened to them. Yes.
And also he was a journalist at that time as well, which was under the Journalism Act.
Yeah.
Oh. So,
we're in the Blockstars.
And he raises a lot of money through Bitcoin. You can donate to the Julian Assange.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, Ethereum.
So in that smart contract, the smart contract is set to do an action, and someone, I see that trade. I do that trade, and I took, X million dollars. Are you being opportunistic? Is it ethically correct? Ethically wrong? This is my view, right? I look at it like, oh, that's not right. Obviously, they missed out because that it is like so far outside it. I can use it. If I use it, I know that I'm using all these people's, wealth and all that stuff. So it's more than ethical.
yeah, it's morally wrong, but it's not illegal.
It's not illegal.
Yeah, they were opportunistic.
It's not technically a hack either.
It's not a hack.
Exactly.
Either.
Exploit.
The responsibility, and it's like this situation. Does the responsibility lie with the kid who basically found an unprotected endpoint and got all that data?
Yes.
Exactly.
You haven't really done anything wrong up until the point you tried to sell it. That's a completely different
That's
issue.
exactly where I think that went on. So,
But if you launch on the blockchain a whole bridge and you don't test it and you don't pen test it and you don't run through all the red team scenarios and everything else, and then someone comes along and exploits it, well, that's
on you, I think.
Going up to a dog house and putting a pie in front of it and then punishing the dog for eating the pie. It's like, come on.
Yeah. I personally, well, not personally, but how do I word this?
it is personally. This is nothing to do with Blockstars.
What Charlie says is on Charlie.
I prefer the hackers that you see in the Web3 space that do an exploit. Well, first of all, the ones that update the platform or the business beforehand and say, hey, you've got this exploit.
Yes.
There was actually many years ago, there was a double spend problem with Bitcoin and the mining, and a Bitcoin SV developer found it and told the Bitcoin core team, that's cool. That's probably the best level of the hacking. And then there's the ones that exploit it and take the funds, but then they give back a lot of the funds to the operation and say, hey, look, this was your exploit.
Yeah.
How much bounty do I get to keep, a little bit.
And I agree with you.
And then there's the ones like Ronin, which, a lot of it's coming from, they say North Korea at the moment. They've actually got specialised hacking groups over there attacking in Russia.
Yep, they're called APTs, Advanced Persistent Threats.
Ooh.
They're state-sponsored hacking groups, not just in North Korea. Every country has them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they
North Korea
just
happens to specialise in blockchain and DeFi.
and they just take all the funds and they're like, you'll never get in that back.
But what I'm saying is we need them. We need people that are good because you got to be smart to do that. But at the end of the day, that's why so many companies like open the door and say, hey, if you can hack us, we'll give you a thing. They actually invite them to hack because you need to see where it can be exploited because it's a weakness in your system.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of smart people.
That's part of the problem we're having now, and Cozzy's got me on LinkedIn, so you'll know the post I'm referring to that I wrote. The people we try to employ in that space are squeaky clean.
Yeah.
Security clearances and everything else, they're completely the wrong people. They haven't they're not rough around the edges. They don't know how criminals think. And the
I love
people
that.
will never get a security clearance because morally you don't like them.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, look, we can keep on talking about this subject, but I really enjoyed it because I learned something new. And I think those are discussions that it's cool to talk about NFTs. I can talk about NFTs every day.
Yeah.
But this is something that I think these are the things that we had to talk about. How can we, when prospects comes along with their projects, their ideas, this is something that we do subconsciously.
Yeah.
Is it right ethically, morally?
Yeah.
And this is what we question. One of the things that we look at, and then we say, oh, we want you to do this project, but then we start analyzing their business model.
Yeah.
And who they are, why are they doing it, and all that stuff. Not just the NFT. Oh, they want an NFT project. So in that case, how far deep should we look into the business before we do the NFT project? Now, where does that line blurs? Where does it cut off period?
We've
Well,
spoken
it
about
comes-
this in the office.
Yeah, and
a couple of times.
Right, and we had those, right, and we had those discussions, and we.
But that's something that's close to Blockstars' heart, for example. A lot of other companies, they get people come in and they just take the job, but obviously because of our values here as a company and our core beliefs, when someone comes in, we've had a number of projects, obviously they won't be named, people have come in and wanted certain things to be done. And when we've looked at the proposal, we understood that they were trying to unjustly, enrich themselves by preying on weaker people, or that their model was basically built on a pyramid scheme or a scam because they wanted to get rich at the expense of other people. It comes down to a matter of principle. What do we believe in? This company is different because we are trying to do it for the greater good. We want to see this space build. We want to see it flourish. We know that there's been so many bad raps about crypto, and we're trying to help change the narrative. And it's up to each and every one of us in this space. Web3 is about collaboration. It's about humanity. It's about changing the world. It's about doing better things and changing these bad habits. And it's up to everyone that's involved. There's always going to be bad actors, but which side are you going to be in history when it all comes out?
100%.
Yeah.
I love that. And on that note,
I've got one more question.
we could talk about this for hours.
I just want one more on everyone, including Codex, if he wants to join in. Ethics, morals, what they think really.
Yeah.
And I'll start with Kozi.
Kozi,
how do you feel about the 30% tax with NFTs with Apple App Store?
I think that's BS.
Well, it's not a tax.
It's my question. It's my question.
I'm trying to clarify.
Your next, Craig.
Wait your turn, Craig. Wait your turn, mate.
Yeah. So I think it's BS because that kills. And I think I understand from their point of view.
And on top of that, how does the royalties work?
Yeah, right. And I understand where they're coming from. They're trying to learn, and they know that they're greedy, they're learning and all that stuff. But as a user, I love Apple, right? I love Apple. The reason I love Apple is about the Apple versus Android or Linux versus Microsoft. We had all that stuff, but I love Apple for certain things, like how they executed on certain things. And I've been told we had this feature in Android for last 5 years, and we know who that keep on saying that, right? But but I always say because Apple's waiting for all the mistakes, and that's why Apple, I'm just kidding. I don't even know why I'm saying that, right? But it's because I believe in I like the execution. I like all that, around what in my head, what I see the Apple brand is different from probably what someone else's Apple brand. When Max does his UI UX, the designs, when you do presentations to other companies, and when you do a mobile app designs, it's very sleek. It's very, I don't know, it's like the Zen version of it, right? So I love Apple for that. But when I saw that 30%, and because we are looking at a project on that, on app-based project with NFTs and all that stuff, I'm thinking, oh my God! Now I would love these people to go have for us to develop this app, to have the NFTs and easy access, really cool, because I like everything doing on my phone, right? So I like that fact, but I just not despise or hate.
Yes, say it, despise.
I just in capital letters, I don't like what they're doing with, with 30%. So, not 30%. I like the brand, but 30%, it's painful for me.
Listen, you know what? At the end of the day, if I can jump in as well, with Apple.
Craig's next.
Craig's next.
No, I want to
Doesn't
he get a separate question?
No, I don't.
It's the same question.
Same
isn't it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, Craig.
Whatever. Go on then. No, just kidding.
But firstly, let's clarify a couple of things. Like I said, it's not a tax. It's a fee. It's a platform fee.
Tax,
that they're
whatever
charging.
you want to call it.
The other thing to clarify is that this 30% fee that they're charging isn't just on NFTs. It's on everything.
No, NFT especially, they put it
No,
out.
haven't you seen the
Did they
update?
increase it?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the standard? amount
Sorry,
that they're
everyone.
charging?
Craig's not
No.
across
Just
I don't know, but it's high. But
it's still quite high.
Yeah.
But
It's like 15-20%.
This is my point. Okay, so yes, I agree with you that it's not cool. It should not be any different to anything else.
it should be cheaper for
one.
NFTs.
Right, well, no. Okay. they can charge whatever platform fee they wish. I think long term and overall, it's going to be a good thing because it's going to show people the benefit of disintermediation of platforms like this and the improved,
I like that.
things that you can get from being from peer to peer. So I think they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, is what they're doing.
Yeah,
And
but people that are integrating into this space and are new to it, they're basically taking advantage of people that are new to it and hoping to profit. I personally do not like, the only thing that makes Apple so good is the marketing. I am a Samsung user. I'm going to cop some grief, I know. But because at the end of the day, their business model is built on licensing. You go to the Apple iPhone store, you don't even own the music that you buy and pay for. You're licensing it off them. Everything is about them keeping their IP and their control, and even the stuff you pay for, you cannot, it's how they control Apple users and keep them using Apple so they can't go anywhere. Like, there's been so many lawsuits where, people have spent so much money to create huge libraries and content of music or noises, and they couldn't even hand down that significant investment to their family because Apple owned it, even though they paid significant amount. It's the same thing. They find a way to take and profit and keep what they're doing. If you use them, you got to be ready to pay.
And the longer they do it,
What?
the more likely it is that somebody else will come in and do it better.
Yeah.
So
And
we have
my opinion on
Yep.
that is I'm happy with it. It brings NFTs a step forward into the mainstream, just like we see with Reddit. But I still feel like Apple's shooting themselves in the foot with
I
the
hope so.
high fee, but it legitimizes blockchain, Web3, NFTs that bit more to the common consumer
Yeah.
that might not be in it yet.
Of course, and you know what, Agent Q, tweeted us as well, and he's right, or he or she is right. It says it's not just 30% NFT fee for Apple; it's 30% plus no payment in crypto, plus not allowed to let holders bring their own NFTs to the platform, plus NFTs aren't allowed to unlock content in the apps. I remember that. I read
Because
that.
Yeah, they're absolutely
be
right.
Hidden
Yeah.
content that Apple does not know about
Yes.
yet, unless they've got the private key for that.
Like a government,
Yeah.
they want to be able to tax it.
Yes, exactly. They
and
want to
know what's in
profit.
there.
Yeah, and then same question to Codex, I guess.
Yeah.
He's one of us now.
About it. Yeah.
I have opinions.
I love it.
So, look, I respect Apple
Thank you.
as a business in the way that I respect the Colombian drug cartel.
Oh, that backfired, Cosy.
You can't do that.
It doesn't mean I like them. When I say I respect them as a business, given what they've created by stealing Berkeley distribution software, Linux at the start,
Yes.
OS X, given that when you look at all their terms of licensing and everything else, if your project goes under, they own your app code.
Yep.
And they will use it.
Yeah.
Given I'm a tax-paying citizen of this country and looking at how much tax they paid in the last financial year to
Nothing.
Australia,
Zero.
like tipping it all offshore,
Yeah.
it's really beyond the pale to then sit there and go, oh yeah, we're going to charge you this amount and we're not going to allow crypto. It's legal.
Yep.
It is legal to use crypto. Yeah, I think they are shooting themselves in the foot, especially when you look at the way Visa and people like that are going now in terms of accepting payments. I think they're trying to position themselves in the market and, watch the next year or two with where they head with crypto and Meta and partnerships with people like Facebook.
Yes.
They're basically trying to centralise and dominate an industry that they know is going to emerge.
Yeah.
And the biggest threat to them, the same way it is the biggest threat to governments at the moment, is
100%.
is individuals starting to do things themselves.
Yeah,
exactly.
Where they have no control.
No, 100% right, and that is exactly it. And this is why when we can always pick and choose what we like. There's no person, no company out there is doing perfect, right? But we can always pick good things from them and leave the bad out of them. And I think when Google started with good intentions, no evil. Microsoft, and I'm pretty sure everyone, when Microsoft did, they started with good intention. I'm pretty sure when Bill Gates wrote his first line of code with good intention, but maybe it just took a with a different, and it's money and time, right? It's money and time. So he want to fast track it. He want to have let us, fast track. So he stole. No, he didn't. He steal it. I don't know what you call it. He shortcut that process, right? And then he want to make more money. So I think money and time really drives people to do some unethical. I don't know. That's what I think. Unethical things, but
I think I'd have to agree that what they are good at is marketing.
Yes.
And politics is marketing by any other name. It's easy to walk things back than it is to, be more permissive. If they come in strong and go, we're not going to allow this, and then when people like their Reddit users on Apple go, well, you can't download the Reddit app anymore because Reddit coins are NFTs.
Yes.
And you can buy things with them. There's Steam credits are NFTs. You can buy things with them. They're not on blockchain, but they're still classed as that kind of thing. Yep. Their users will speak out, and Apple will go, we've listened. We've heard your concerns. We've listened. And we're doing this because aren't we good and nice? It's all marketing.
Yeah, it is. Well, one thing actually we have to agree on, I will stand for Microsoft. Not Microsoft, for Apple, even though this is not Web3, right? When they stop doing the tracking things, like, to completely kill the, advertising model, so that they say, like, okay, in Apple, just like...
You mean when they told you they'd done it?
Yeah, I like it.
Exactly.
Can you prove that they did it?
Well, it's like advertising, it got killed. So,
but who is it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But they haven't done the code yet.
Greg's just a bit cut about your Google.
Yeah.
He's hurting. Anyway, guys. Hey, I just want to give a shout out to a couple of people here who we really know, the War Dogs.
Shout out to the War Dogs.
Shout out to the War Dogs. I love when I joined for Twitter Spaces and all of us when we see you guys talk, it's just like we have a saying here, right? We say, like, we leave the ego at the door. If the ego comes in 5 minutes before you walk in, there's a problem, right? And listening to War Dogs, being on Twitter, I just love it. Just like comes like as honest as anything, right? I can't, it does give no BS to what other people think. He, just say as it is, and whether it's right or wrong, I think it's what you believe in, and it's like so good, like down to earth and whatever it is. And I just love that. I just want to give a shout out to War Dogs, and we have Renee as well.
Hi, Renee.
Hey, Renee. And Renee is another, beautiful soul and doing
I love you.
Yeah, right. We love you. Doing some great things in this space, and amazing, right? Amazing human being, and bringing good, to the. Oh, Renee just dropped off.
She's like,
perfect timing. But it's good. We are recording this space, so just want to give a shout out to Renee and the Pummel team as well, and so. All in all, Renee's back. And Renee's back.
And because he's looking forward to karaoke night.
Yeah.
What is a karaoke night?
The event coming up down at the Metabar.
At the Metabar. Is that so, right? Okay, I'm pretty bad.
And Codex, we've loved having you on and joining us and having a chat. any of you guys in future, if you have something to say, put your hand up. Don't be afraid. Talk to us. It's a conversation. The more, the merrier.
Exactly.
Love hearing your opinions. Love getting everyone's insight. We're all in the same place, in the same space, and we're all in it together.
100%.
Thanks, Codex, for all your valuable insights. We've really appreciated it.
100%.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been awesome meeting Cozzy and through him getting to know you guys as well. So I won't be a stranger.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Alrighty. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. And
Thanks,
we're going to
everyone.
end the space today.
And see you guys next week.
See you guys next week. And, Insta Live, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys. Bye,
Alrighty.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
Subscribe.